not just a forest burning, this is almost a cemetery because all you can see is dead.
The biggest problem now facing the world is climate change.
Greenland has impacts all around the planet. 1 billion tons of ice lost here raises sea levels all over the world.
If we don't figure out how to do something about this, and pretty quickly, we're going to hit a catastrophic tipping point.
It is just terrifying, really, how absolutely endless the line of fire is.
The climate crisis is the biggest crisis humanity has ever faced, and yet it has been ignored for decades.
This year is on pace to set a record for ice melt here in the Arctic. And the NASA scientists are finding out that it's not just hotter air, but also warmer ocean water that's causing a lot of the attrition that's making these glaciers lose so much ice.
We're gearing up for our flight with the guys from NASA, the ONG project, Oceans Melting Greenland, where they're sort of mapping how quickly the oceans are melting, why they're melting.
We think of Greenland like a big ice cube with a hairdryer on it, right? So the air is warming up and it's melting from the top. But in fact, the ice here is very dynamic. It flows right off the land into the ocean. And a lot of the glaciers that carry that ice sit below sea level. So the ice literally feels the ocean warming as well. Greenland has impacts all around the planet. 1 billion tons of ice lost here raises sea levels in Australia, in Southeast Asia, in the United States, in Europe, all over the world, because we're all connected by the same ocean.
The new fires are sporadic, they pop up, they destroy vast amounts of land very quickly. There's winds blowing, intense dry heat everywhere. This is the land we flew over for 4, but the devastation is more final from the ground. It feels a bit like the end of the world, doesn't it? And when flames rage like this, the firefighters actually have to pull back. And there's nothing they can do, really, until the wind dies down.
This is not just a forest burning, this is almost a cemetery because all you can see is dead.
It is just terrifying, really, how absolutely endless the line of fire is.
The rainforests in Indonesia are burning. Firefighters have been battling this blaze for weeks. And at its peak this summer, the government says there were thousands of similar fires all across Borneo and Sumatra. The Indonesian government has been fighting these forest fires on the ground and in the air. And we're about to get a look at how they water bomb the fires using these helicopters that carry baskets full of water. All right, bombs away. These animals face incredible threats. Their population has plummeted over the past 20 years. One of the primary threats is deforestation. Natural habitat like this being removed for human settlement, for agriculture.
The spring in 2019 will go down as one of the most brutal ever. They had these torrential rains, bomb cyclones, and because this is the kind of event that goes hand in hand with a warmer, wetter climate, this is why scientists are predicting that farming is just going to get harder and harder in coming generations.
So this corn is almost 2 feet shorter than it normally is. I'm looking at probably a 20 to 30% drop in yield just from the poor spring we had. In Iowa, we just set a record last year, the last 12 months, ending this spring, of a record amount of rainfall, which creates erosion, it creates water quality issues, it takes fertilizer, our precious topsoil with it, things that put nitrates in water, phosphorus in water.
The biggest problem now facing the world is climate change. And if we don't figure out how to do something about this and pretty quickly, then we're going to hit a catastrophic tipping point.
This is all volunteer. They're going to get their neighbors. There are people who've lost their lives out there, we are told. They brought back at least one body, and they say they will not stop until they get everybody.
My poor little wife got hypothermia, and she was standing on top of the kitchen cabinets until they disintegrated. The water was coming up quick. It came all the way up to where it was up to our necks on there. I kept with her, and she just drowned on me.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
It's been 1 month since Hurricane Dorian hit the Bahamas, and the people here are still suffering. We just docked in Freeport, Bahamas, and we will be following a group of medical professionals. They're grabbing what they need, and then they'll be going out in the field to tend to the sick. What's your biggest concern?
As we continue to drive through, there's a distinct smell of bodies that are decomposing.
I haven't seen any search and rescue to come get any other bodies.
Some people don't understand or believe the climate crisis. They don't understand that it's real. We can already see the changes. We already have increased the temperature above pre-industrial levels 1.2 degrees. And everything's happening very fast now. We need to act as if we were in a crisis.
Fear to me means absolutely nothing anymore. Fear played such a big piece of my life, and it controlled me to not do what was best for me. So fear to me now is nothing but an imagination. My name is Flip Rodriguez. I'm a Hollywood stuntman and an American Ninja Warrior. From the ages of 9 to 15, I was sexually abused by my father. Like, how do I live my life after that? Like, I can't trust anybody. I got into parkour and freerunning when I was the age of 19. Parkour and freerunning are two different definitions, are very similar. Parkour is just straightforward, vaulting, jumping over walls, over any obstacle in your way. Freerunning is your own style, your own flipping, flow of it, make it nice and pretty as possible, and you take your time. When I first got started, I've never been upside down. So my body's like, wait, whoa, we don't do that. And then the fear aspect hits in. So it's like, let's stop and think about this. Is this really worth getting hurt? Fear is what stopped me from trying to stop my sexual abuse. Parkour and freerunning has been a stepping stone for me to heal and be okay with my sexual abuse. It's because fear is a big part of parkour and freerunning. So every day I trained, I was always encountering a new fear. I started in American Ninja Warrior Season 3.
And look at him go, using momentum from each jump to get to the next run.
And then on Season 7, I actually explained my story. I was sexually abused. After my interview came out, I've had kids write to me. One of the parents reached out to me. Turns out that the daughter and the son were being sexually abused by a family friend. The child just started breaking down crying. She was like, what Flip is talking about is also happening to me. And they brought up charges. The gentleman got convicted of that, and that right there blew my mind away, because not only did I heal myself, but I also saved somebody from further abuse, and that was incredible. I like to give back to the community with using my story. I coach parkour and freerunning. I'm not teaching them just about parkour and freerunning. I try to teach them tools of life. You guys just saw, he kind of fell a little bit. What do you got to say?
Okay, I don't give up, and I'm going to try this right now again, because Flippy taught us to never give up.
Every single person can relate to fear.
Yeah!
So if I can teach these kids from a young age to separate fear from danger, that is a life tool. My negative piece of my life, I can now turn it around and put a spotlight on it in the sense of, this is who I am. This is what happened to me, and look at me, I'm still shining.